Well, hello, that's me again. Today is November 13th. It is Monday. And I want to address immediately. No, I'm not going to be talking about Gaza and whatever the Israel is committing there. We've been through this before. But I want to comment on some interesting things which you can see already in the title of this video, and this will address the issue which is raised by two parties. One of the party, of course, are trolls, which is expected. Many people from the CIPSO and the other intelligence agencies are hanging around those videos. Others people who are really in need of the explanation, and this is of course about Cya, cover your ass, so to speak. And it is about the fact that suddenly CIA process is just hitting the high gear, and we will start, of course, with this publication. And if people say that, oh no, this is not about covering of your own butt, no, it's something else, that no, we have to go and look at this news, which of course we have now. They stream practically every day, and it's a quickening of the process of the demolition of the basically the whole structure of military political support and economic support for Ukraine. And suddenly we have the Washington Post, as my friend Larry Johnson calls them correctly, Wash Post. So, and as you can see yourself, they came up with this incredibly funny idea, and you can hear the Homeric laughter, from all over Russia. But guess what? A colonel identified as Roman Chervinsky was integral to the sabotage operation, the outlet claims, the Washington Post. And they say that a Ukrainian military officer serving with the National Special Operation Forces played a key role in the attack on Russia's Nord Stream gas pipeline in autumn 2022. The Washington Post reported on Saturday, citing sources among Ukrainian and other European officials, as well as people knowledgeable about the details of covered operation. I cannot even emphasize enough what amount of the bullcrap this all is. And of course, last video I was talking about Amanda Sloat, which suddenly got tired at her pretty young age, whatever, even if she's 40, it's still young. And then she suddenly, after 3 years, decided to leave the basically Biden administration. And this is not, she is not the only one who is leaving, and there are people in the State Department who, some of them already resigned in protest, others already speak basically anonymously about the horrible situation. But look what actually the Russian Vzгляд, how Russian Vzгляд yesterday correctly identifies this whole situation. As you can see yourself, this web page was run through the Google Translate, or not Google Translate, actually the browser Translate, and of course it translated it incorrectly. The headline is not US blames Ukraine, which it does, of course, for biggest sabotage against Russia. Reality is that the headline in Russian should be translated as US shifts the blame to Ukraine for biggest sabotage against Russia. And we're talking about Nord Stream 2, which is the unprecedented act of the international terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism. And that is why when people say, oh my gosh, I mean, why do you think that this Sloat lady, I mean, just decided to, run like a rat from the sinking ship? Because it is a sinking ship. And if this is not enough, here comes the next one. Now, suddenly, before that, it was these were American intel services which are covering there, but now you have we have the British services covering their act. Of course, we're talking about the article penned by Exhibit A of why you should never attend any kind of humanities degrees in Great Britain, because they produce academic fraud. And so this guy, Mark Galeotti, who passes, including by the definition of RT, that is why I don't communicate with RT anymore, I don't want to. I mean, he passes as the expert. He is not an expert, he is the guy who is completely, uneducated, and he is no expert in Russia. Nobody in Russia of any significance will allow to communicate with this guy. This guy is primarily hangs around, he lives in Prague, Czech Republic right now. He primarily communicates with the basically the human trash, which basically took itself out from Russia with the start of special military operation, and he wouldn't be allowed anywhere with people who have something to say of value. But here, even he writes, probably being an asset, that my gosh, rift is growing between Western and Ukrainian spies in the Times. Ukrainian terrorist attacks on prominent Russian public figures are widening the rift between Western and Kiev intelligence services. Mark Galeotti, a British historian and expert on modern Russia, has said, as I already stated, he is no expert. He would know basically crap from Shinola in real situation with Russia. But hey, this is very indicative. This is also very important in understanding how rats are running from the sinking ship and how they do CYA, covering your butt. And so in an article for the Times published on Saturday, Galeotti noted that while Ukrainian spy agencies have been closely cooperating with their American and British counterparts since as early as 2014, cracks are beginning to show between Kiev and the West in the realm of shadow warfare. Galeotti attributed the tensions to reservations about the Ukrainian strategy of taking the war to Russia by bombing and killing of not just military but also political targets. Well, of course, he comes up with the lame excuse that the basically West is particularly concerned that, contrary to Ukraine's belief that these strikes will undermine Russia's public support for the military against Kiev, they could have the opposite effect. No, this is not, and Galeotti actually, as usually produces bunch of the garbage, which passes for some kind of expert assessments. But the point is that this is not the main reason that they are afraid about the opposite effect. No. It is all about CYA. It is all about, covering the tracks, which lead to the British and American intelligence services, who are responsible for killing Russian civilians, Russian political leaders. They are responsible for the acts of international terrorism, state-sponsored terrorism against Nord Stream 2, and generally it's all primarily about, for in American situation, it is about preserving some kind of the legitimacy of the actions of the Biden administration. But it doesn't matter. That's what I'm trying to convey constantly. Russians have an excellent intel capabilities, including the ones which are obviously signal intelligence. They know the identities of people who are behind that, and of course they know where they where those basically identities and connections lead to the highest political level. So those people, once the proceedings start on the War Crimes Tribunal on Ukraine, those people will be identified and many of them will be charged. And after that, their life will not be the same. Not that they necessarily wanted to go to Russia or elsewhere, but they will be actually followed by Russian justice. And not that they will be basically, kidnapped, but let the chips fall where they may. So, and this is the main reason why you basically have this non-stop stream of articles suddenly explaining that, oh no, it's not us, this is not our song, this is not our lyrics. Well, it is, and it's your lyrics. This is your basically handbook, and this is how Ukraine acted with the cover from Washington and London. And again, London being a lapdog, of course, here primarily it all originates in the United States, and London also will do very little if United States says not to do it. So there we are. And basically this explains all the stream of the publications that suddenly says, oh no, we have the rift, we have cracks appearing between us and them. No, 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 no. They understand that the war is lost. And let me show you why it is lost just on a simple tactical example. Apart from the fact that you also have now publications that from the West which try to downplay their basically their number of casualties on Ukraine, and this is also risible, and Russians are laughing openly about this, but hey, whatever, they need to cover up the greatest geopolitical crime the combined West committed in the post-World War. War II, pardon me. And apart from Vietnam, this is essentially what it is in terms of their victims and casualties. And don't forget, Vietnam War lasted for 10 years. And you had about 2 million, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially Vietnamese, those Vietnamese listeners. I think so. It was about 2.5, something like million of civilian casualties. By the United States, but here we have the Vietnam War lasted only for 10 years. Here we have only less than 2 years, and we're already talking about catastrophe and depopulation of the country. So that is why this is so serious. But here is of course, Russians laugh at this, and here is the latest Russian meme. The girl, just bids goodbye to her boy, so to speak, and tells him, please return back with the washing machine. This is how all ridiculous it all became, and what is interesting, the Western propaganda ran with it. But we can go and actually talk to people who are extremely important, and here is General Cya Ii. Well, let me tell you who General Cya Ii is. He is a very important man, and as you can see yourself from his curriculum vitae, he served as the Chief of Staff of German Armed Forces, the Bundeswehr, from 2000 to 2002, and the Chairman of NATO Military Committee from 2002 to 2005. The guy is the highest ranking German officer, who also basically was the head of the command of NATO. So, as you can see yourself, the guy, if you look at his biography and his education, he went through some serious training, so he is a professional military. And here it is. 2 days ago, no, not 2 days, 6 days ago, General Cya Ii talks to one of the German outlets, and he says that actually there is no way Ukraine can win this war because Ukrainian armed forces are utterly destroyed. And some people will say that, oh yeah, what does he know? And they will use all kinds of as always, attack on the sources. But there is no doubt about the fact that the Mr. or Herr Cya Ii is a very competent military officer. And he was in NATO, and he was the heading of the committee in NATO when NATO was kind of, still a serious force. It was 20 years ago, not anymore. But you can go and listen to this video. It is in German, but you can use all kinds of basically tools, translation tools, and I believe there is even the transcript of his speech, so you can listen or read it, and you will understand why the situation is so dire and why the propaganda doesn't work. And meanwhile, I want to basically get you some news from my friend Marat Khairulin, who is daily around on the front lines. And here's 2 days ago the map of the Avdiivka and what is happening right now in terms of Russians attacking basically the heavily fortified area, as you can see yourself, the blue dotted line. So, and Russians basically breaking through there and surrounding what is called the Khrebet position. And as you can see yourself, Russians are already in Avdiivka, and they're already fighting with what is called ninth quarter. So Avdiivka is pretty much an operational cauldron now, and what we see now is obviously still nobody runs there, and just throws bodies against the Ukrainian defenses. But Russians begin to, so to speak, mopping up operations there, while Avdiivka is surrounded on three sides. And you know what? Yeah, they have no chance there. So, and once Avdiivka falls, which it will fall, Russians actually have no reason to rush. You will have another horrendous blow to the morale in Kiev, and we already have some news pouring from Kiev that the situation there is not calm, really. There are all kinds of tribulations, so to speak, within the military and political levels, because Mr. Z understands he is a dead man walking, but he grasps the last straw, and you can expect that from that type of people, because actually when you look at them, they are the same type of people as in Washington, or in London. They have no honor, they have no understanding of right and wrong, they just power-hungry thugs. They want to keep, grab onto power, because obviously, if we will look at essentially about this, what I was talking about in the duration of the last two videos, this included, the stream of those publications and those statements, they have only one thing in mind and only one purpose: to whitewash forces in the West which are complicit directly into the war crimes and crimes against humanity. And that goes directly, for example, to the Biden administration. And some people have already stated, and not only Americans, many Russian analysts say that basically what is happening with Ukraine now has only one purpose: to prevent Mr. Biden as his family basically ending behind bars, which absolutely could be a factor. It is a factor, actually. So how large it is and all that, I don't know, substantial. It's certainly one of few factors which influence this absolutely not job, activity, emanating from Washington, D.C. But it doesn't help, the Ukraine is done, and armed forces of Ukraine are absolutely broken. And as I already stated, we have the situation with the children being basically called upon some kind of duties, and even pregnant women fighting that. So that's what is important. But if that hasn't been enough, I want to start with something which also bothers the West. Bothers is in a very profound way. And that it's also dealing with some of the publications in the CNN, and we'll talk about this shortly. But let me show you something. Do you see this? This is, for people who are buffs of aviation, they should know the trick. You see the red star on this bomber? Well, the name of this bomber is Tu-4, Tupolev 4, the Bull. It is a Soviet strategic bomber from 1940s. Now we go and look at this. As you can see yourself, this is famous America's build B-29 strategic bombers, and it carries all markings of the U.S. Air Force. The question here is why they are so look alike. Well, the reason being that a Russian Soviet plane is an exact copy of Boeing B-29. Russians got lucky in 1946, I believe, when a couple of their B-29 super fortresses landed in the Soviet Union and the Far East, and Russians got the access to this technology. And at that time, Soviet Union needed strategic bomber of that capability to deliver, which everybody knew it's going to happen. In 1949, Soviet Union exploded its first atomic device, so to have their basically nuclear deterrent. And the delivery system, of course, was primarily bombers. So that's what it is. But since then, of course, Russia developed its own absolutely unique bomber design school. And the school of design obviously includes such outstanding aircraft like Tu-22 M3 or Tu-160 Blackjack bombers. So, and of course, immortal, ancient and still flying, the mother of all turboprop bombers, Tu-95 Bears. They will probably serve another 50 years. Who knows, man? So, but the point is that Russians have a great expertise in combat aviation, and when they basically copied B-29. After that, they never looked back. And they developed some unique bomber design school. But this is not only that. Russian, of course, actually have a very advanced aerospace industry and commercial aviation industry. And here we have the publication from CNN, and it was there 5 days ago, and they write about the first flight of this IL-96-400M, the beautiful wide-body aircraft, and Russian manufacturer test flights prototype wide-body passenger airplane. But it would have been CNN, and would be those people CNN employs as the basically the experts who wouldn't be basically throwing their crap at the wall and see what sticks. Obviously, immediately after that, they say that it's all wrong. Russians cannot do anything. And so here's one guy, his name is Murdo Morrison. Although Moscow won't admit it, the sanctions that followed the Ukraine invasion have really damaged Russian aviation. This Murdo Morrison, head of strategic content at Flight Global, tells CNN. And then, of course, he calls that it's all massive gamble. The problem is the lack of spares. Some get in through the back door. Undoubtedly means that many Airbus and Boeing aircraft flying in Russia today are potentially dangerous. Although Russia has a proficient regulator, there is very little visibility as to the health of the fleet. So this is by Murdo Morrison. So, and as you may expect, the same as Galeotti, I mean, it's complete BS, and the guy just present his, visual thinking. And here is Mr. Morrison's CV. As you can see yourself, he has Masters of Arts honors in politics. That means he has no real valuable and valid education. And then, of course, he has, I don't even know what it is, postgraduate diploma in journalism studies. I don't know what it is. Well, if you look at this, the guy was working in all kinds of publishing organizations. He was actually even running the car and spare parts magazine in Great Britain. So as you can see yourself, the guy is absolute hack. He wouldn't know anything about real commercial aviation. But of course, when you look attentively at why I started with B2, B29 and TU4, well, it's very simple. If Russians could have copied in 1946, at that time most advanced strategic bomber, and Russia built 800 of them, and they flew for many years until the last one was retired somewhere in 70s, of course being already absolutely obsolete. But Russia today, Russia already opened number of the actually planned industrial aerospace plant, which does everything what it needed for not only aircraft systems themselves. For example, landing gear. They have now landing gear, which is plant which makes spares and spare landing gears for any kind of the Airbus or Boeing aircraft which fly for Russian commercial airlines. But obviously they make all kinds of spare parts for the engines, and yes, that's where we get to the point of why basically this Mr. Murdo, whatever his Morrison, he's trying to actually present again BS. Well, the reason is simple: butthurt. I mean, incredible jealousy and envy. And here it is, especially considering the fact that he is British and Britain is not producing anymore anything in the commercial or combat aircraft whatsoever. And here it is. The issue being, of course, this. PD-35, it is the continuation of Russia very large, high bypass ratio, ultra-modern engine, which has the thrust, depending on the what is needed, between 26 and 44 tons of thrust. And as you can see yourself, it can power just about anything wide body out there. And here is the issue. Here's the thing. As you can see yourself, the PD-35 just passed to a few days ago a very successful test with the high convergence of the actual experimental and design data. And it's not only the fact that it will fly eventually on the wide-body Russian aircraft, because it is a engine which could be easily stuck, for example, on the Boeing 777 or 787, but because also of that. Let me show you what it is. This is Antonov 124. And actually, it's a magnificent aircraft. It is the Russian equivalent of the magnificent C-5 Galaxy of the United States Air Force, although it's somewhat larger overall. But the problem for Russians was, which by the way, Russia produced them, not even Ukraine anymore, and Russia was producing them in Ulyanovsk, and now has currently 12 of them flying and 14 in reserve, and all of them already have been, 12 of them have been upgraded with the newest avionics. But the point here why Russia didn't produce them after the collapse of the Soviet Union was because of the copyrights issues. The engines which you can see at this Antonov are Ivchenko design bureau, and they have been produced in the Zarya Mosh project in Ukraine. Well, PD-35 automatically resolves this issue, and it becomes, for example, its 26-ton becomes a main engine for those IN-124 Ruslans which Russia has, and that allows, once PD-35 tests, which are ongoing really well and accelerated, are over, Russia will have 26 of those strategic lift airplanes, which are capable, well, let me put it this way, roughly speaking, one IN-124 can easily get two T-90M tanks inside, some vehicles, truckload of armor, ammunition, and things of this nature, including their like up to 60 passengers. They have their fully pressurized upper deck. And the point here is that when Russia has 26 of those, it's more than enough for Russia's strategic lift and basically power projection in all kinds of the areas which matter for Russia. United States has the fleet of 52 C-5 Galaxies, but do not forget, United States is having its bases and its so-called projection of forces all over the world, and it will need probably more than that. And here comes this issue. Mr. Shoigu, as you can see yourself, a month ago, states that Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, during a meeting with the leadership of the United Aircraft Corporation, called for doubling the number of IN-12400 transport aircraft by 2025. That means already 24, we know, that will be ready. And they will have to go through modernization. As you can see yourself, here it's all glass cockpit, it's all modern, it's all, so basically, yeah, it's cutting edge aircraft, despite the fact that their basically airframes are fairly old. So obviously, Российская Газета, which is the establishment newspaper, makes a basically very important point. Many misinterpreted Shoigu words, deciding that it was about doubling the production of super heavy transport aircraft. But that was the point, that actually it was not. Shoigu meant all those airframes which are in reserve, and that's once they modernize by 2025, Russia has the fleet of at least 24, maybe 26 of these magnificent aircraft which are capable to, my gosh, move a lot of things. So, and they also are able to land on the unprepared runways. But in the end, there is another issue behind PD-35 engine, because, and here it is. It is the Elephant, or called Slon aircraft, the brand new Russian strategic lift transport, which both will be working in the commercial and combat strategic lift role. And as you can see yourself, it's already being developed with the models running the air tube tests, so to speak, and with the engine nacelets corresponding to the PD-35 type engine. Previously, thematic nacelles of a simplified shape were used. This is the model, which it's a large model, actually, several meters large, for tests in the aerodynamic tube. And when you look at this, and especially when you look at this, that Russia now, that was today, that preparation started for the serial production of the checkmate fighter, which is a Sukhoi 75, which is stealth and a state-of-the-art machine. You have to ask the question, why they so worried about this? Oh yeah, Russians don't have those spare parts, which they do actually. They can produce them. They can replicate any kind of engine if they decide to. So, and then you have this thing which is happening simultaneously practically. We have the Ion 124 going online, being completely modernized and to the very advanced, basically cutting-edge avionics and systems. And then, of course, you have PT-35 engines waiting in the wings. You have IL-96-400, which we already know will be serially produced as the transport, for example, including other special government uses. You have a Su-75 checkmate being prepared for the serial production, which means what? And it is fully 100% Russian plane. Guess what? F-35 will have its hands full trying to convince others around the world that it's the best plane. It's not. But we know what a Su-75 will be. And when you look at this, it's not just resurgence. It's like Russian aerospace, including both commercial and combat military one, is like Phoenix, the bird Phoenix, which basically raised itself from the ashes. And when you get this news together, when you look at those stream also of the publications in the West, which you can sense the really butthurt and sour grapes there, what can you say? That means Russians have the proverb, if they criticize us, then we're doing it right. This is precisely what is happening. And when you put this together, all together, you can see a paradigm shift, not only in the issue of politics, which was already happening for some time. You have the technological paradigm shift happening in the basically combat aviation, because with what we already know happening in special military operations. You have Russia basically doubling by 2025, which and you understand the finances are there, doubling the fleet of the strategic lift fleet, which will be first, it will be actually motorized not by BT-35, which is still not ready. There will be PS-90 A1 engines. And when you look at this, it's like, yeah. So try to compete with this now, and this has strategic implications and ramifications of an incredible scale. And that also means that Russia prepares to defend their realm, which is right now involves many Arab and African countries. And Russia will need strategic lift, and Russia will need actually the combat aircraft, which will compete on all international markets, and believe me, I'm pretty sure it will be a huge success. And this is what I wanted to tell you today, without getting too far into all those tactical minutiae. And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Those who can afford, please support me on their Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And what can I say? Have a nice week ahead of you, and I will talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.